Narcissism is actually one of the biggest words that people type in when looking for a Google search. Why? I'm sure that you've said at some point or heard someone say, oh, so-and-so is a narcissist, or he's displaying such narcissistic behavior. Well, just like not everyone has obsessive compulsive disorder, but we always throw out, oh, he's so obsessive compulsive. People talk about their bosses, their colleagues, and their subordinates and say that they're narcissistic. What is a narcissist? A narcissist is someone who is ego-driven, someone who is cold-blooded and so focused on him or herself that he's willing to step on that other person in order to get ahead. It's unfortunate that we see a lot of narcissistic tendencies in the workplace, and oftentimes bosses truly are narcissistic in the way that they relate to the people they work with. So how might we take emotion out of a situation and get what we want and need from a narcissistic boss? How can we do our job, do it well, and go home and then be with the people we want to be with, instead of worrying and bringing the drama home with us and bringing that to the dinner table? So all we need to do is specifically do three things. Number one, we have to respect ourselves. Bullies are more likely to step on or pounce on those who are ready and willing targets. Stand in an assertive fashion. Be polite, but be direct. Show others that you are not one who will be trampled upon. So we need to respect ourselves. And an example of this that I have personally from my own home life is when my middle daughter was about 2. Our son decided to give her a little bit of a hard time. Pretty normal son, daughter, brother, sister relationship. But my daughter said to him, very matter-of-factly, don't do that. I love myself too much. And when I heard that, I said, yes, that was a major aha parenting moment. We had done something right because our daughter was proud enough and assertive enough to say, you can't do that to me. That's how we have to behave in the office. We have to love ourselves too much to have somebody step on us. So number one, we need to respect ourselves. Number 2, we need to clearly communicate expectations. When you're with a narcissistic boss, it's very common for that individual to quickly change on a dime. All of a sudden, that person who was your best friend has now placed you in the hot seat. So you need to clarify expectations. The boss says, hey, Amy, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And then 5 minutes later, no, we're going to do A, B, C. So before moving to my desk to get my work done, it's my job to clearly make sure that I understand what's expected. Okay, boss, so you're saying now not to do X, Y, and Z, but to do A, B, C? Just want to make sure we're on the same page. But something that I often suggest to my clients is to create an electronic paper trail. We have that dialogue with the boss. We now know that we're doing A, B, C. But we want to make sure that in 5 minutes the boss doesn't change his mind again. So write it down in an email. Send that emailed recap to your boss. Copy perhaps somebody else on the team who might be able to vouch for you when the boss then decides you're going to do something else 5 minutes after that. So create an electronic paper trail that you can recall and that you can then send on if needed to support your position or your stance. So we've respected ourselves, and we have also made sure that we're clearly communicating. So the third thing that we need to do is to show loyalty. Narcissists are actually very uncomfortable personally. They lack a degree of self-confidence. So oftentimes bullies in general are like that. Those who bully others don't feel good about themselves. So a narcissistic boss needs to understand that you're on his or her side. So clearly showing your loyalty will actually help you to win over a narcissistic boss. Now we have to be sincere. We can't pretend to be loyal when we're not. But when we see something that we can agree on with that narcissistic boss, we need to say so. For instance, I know we're on the same team. I know we have this same goal in mind. I just want you to know I'm here and we're going to work together to get this done. That's honest, that's sincere, but it still lets the boss know, hey, she's with me. And we're going to be less likely to try to punch or injure or hurt someone who is on our team. And so being sincere about that can go a long way. So those are the 3 takeaways that I have for you today about how to effectively handle narcissistic bosses. Make sure that we love ourselves, that we show that respect, make sure that we are very clear in our communication, and we create that email paper trail so that we can support ourselves and recall it if needed if there's ever a question as to whether or not we've handled something appropriately. And then finally, show that we are loyal. When a narcissistic boss knows that we are on his or her team, he'll likely pick on someone else instead of us. So at this point, what I'd like to do is open the floor for questions. If you have any questions about ways that we interact or communicate effectively with employees, employers, or subordinates, perhaps work-life balance questions, feel free. Yes?
So here's a work-life balance question. So I'm in a situation where we have a very high workload, and I'm a yes person. I like to be very responsive. So the person says, can you do this? I'll say, yeah, I'll try and do that. It's when you have to say no. And saying no, I feel very guilty about. So I don't want to say no. So I end up like working at some point. So how do you handle that situation?
Well, the question is, who is asking you to do the work?
Oh, it's my boss.
If it's your boss, then a great line is, for me to be most productive, I need to either do this but not that. I'd love to help you. Are you then saying that I should place this other task on a different, lower on the list? So, and then, by the way, following up with a paper trail. That email dialogue is key. Because then when the boss says, why didn't Steve do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, he's not narcissistic. So
Good.
Yeah.
But that idea of, it shows that you're accountable. It allows you to feel that you're doing your job, and then also you can prioritize your time.
I still feel guilty.
But you don't need to feel guilty if in fact you're doing your job and you're saying, okay, I'm working for this many hours. Is this something that I need to push as a priority here, or is it something that's not as important but you want me to add to my list? So again, that clear communication is critical. Thank you.
Sometimes there's a distinction between narcissism and just someone who's self-confident in his or her abilities. So what are some of the distinguishing features?
Sure. So self-confidence, if you think of it almost like a pendulum, okay? So it's not like there's an either or. Some of us display particular characteristics that might be considered by others to be narcissistic, when in fact it might just be self-confidence. But it's the way that we portray our behaviors and our mannerisms to others. So in certain industries, it's expected. For instance, in the law or the legal industry, for sure, you would see people who have that cocky type of a way. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're narcissistic. Narcissists are ego-driven, cold-blooded, ready to toss any insecurity onto another person and not take any responsibility or ownership for anything that they do. Narcissists are so cold-blooded and mean that they don't care about themselves whatsoever. And that's why, in general, people aren't maybe necessarily as narcissistic as they are something else, maybe just bullyish. So lawyers should be strong, assertive, firm, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the character that makes a lawyer a good lawyer. But being polite, respectful, listening, responding in a clear and kind manner while still being authoritative or demonstrative when needed doesn't necessarily make that person a narcissist. Good question.
Why did you write your book?
Oh, thank you for asking. Actually, this book is a project that's near and dear to my heart. My grandmother was a mentor of mine, and she is the co-author of the book. She passed away over 12 years ago, before my oldest son was born. But she's the one who introduced me to the field of industrial psychology. I was thinking of going either into clinical psychology or law, and she cut out a newspaper clipping. And the field is literally what I do, what I did before I even got a degree. Deals with motivation and time management and goal setting and positivity and ways to get to the end result in a way that doesn't step on others but really elevates others. And that truly defines me as an individual, and I was so happy that she told me about the field, which was pretty new at the time. Well, so my grandmother, despite the fact that she didn't have a psychology degree, she was actually, I believe, a management or communications major. She was a prodigy and a forerunner of her time. Way back when, she managed a bank, she had a syndicated column in the Miami Herald, and she was a management consultant. And she actually helped to improve the lines of communication in the workplace. And she wrote a number of books, and one of those books was Working with Difficult People. And so I was young. I remember helping her with the index and even going over some of the examples that she used in the book. So it was very special for me when I realized that this book was still selling some 25 years after it was originally written. So I reached out to the publisher, and I said, is there any way that I might revise and modernize the book? Because the book didn't have any information about email or how to deal with a boss who always wants to get your attention, even after hours. Because back in the day, the workday ended and you went home to dinner. Now we're able to always be received, and we're expected to always respond to emails, texts, phone calls. I've even had clients, by the way, have to stop dinner in order to FaceTime with the boss. So these things happen, and the lines and the boundaries have merged and blended so much. There was nothing about major work-life balance issues, even multicultural teams, the fact that we work on the internet, things like that just weren't around. So I approached the publisher and asked if I could keep a lot of the meat, but definitely the bones, and then revise and modernize it to incorporate some of these newer, more modern ways that we work in the workplace. So I am really honored and thrilled that they said yes, and that the book hit #1 on Amazon for business etiquette. It's currently its 4th printing, and also it's available in ebook, and somebody has now purchased the audio rights to the book, so if you click on it, you'll hear some woman reading the words of the text. So very, very exciting. And I do have another book, by the way, that I hope to get published very soon about work-life balance, which is a true passion of mine. How to truly get what we want and need from our relationships, whether they be work-related or personal, and at the end of the day, be able to be home with our family and our loved ones. Really the main reason that we do work. One of the biggest complaints that I have that I see when going to my clients is that they are so busy, so focused on work, that they're too tired to enjoy the reason they go to work in the first place, namely their family, their loved ones. And so how to take time for ourselves, and also how to take time for those who we care for and love. Thank you so much for coming.
Awesome.